Здравствуйте, уважаемые коллеги. Мы
Good
начинаем.
morning, esteemed colleagues. We are starting our program today. We are opening our 5th annual International Symposium, City and Education. We are holding it for the 5th time already, and we are glad that every year we are gathering a very good spectators, international and Russian ones. And so today we're going to have an opening for the 5th time, as I have mentioned. So our symposium is held in the mixed hybrid format, so partially it would be online and partially it would be here offline in our building. And of course, that will all be broadcasted online. So we would like to invite for the first speech the rector of our university, Mr. Remorenko. So good morning, esteemed colleagues. We are very glad to see you all at our today's 5th symposium. We can't say that that is a jubilee symposium, but that is still very important for us. Several years ago, we have started discussing the topic of the city and its role and its problematics on which we are working in our university, and its most broad context, like the city is kind of a specific space which is the possibility for people to meet and to require something new which is not proposed by any other space. That is to say that the city in some sense is a very specific space, place which has for centuries been a meeting point for the enrichment of the social environment. And that is our 5th conference, which is very dear for us. And here we would like to welcome all the people who have joined us and those who have joined us for the first time. So we would be very glad if you would see something interesting for you here and that you would join our following meetings.
Maybe I would like to say for our overseas participant, we are very happy to see all you here. And we would like to say that it's so important thing that this crisis period we can discuss these very important topics here and build common meanings in our society. If we are talking about city development, if we are talking about education, culture, and other spheres of cities development. Еще раз хочу поприветствовать всех наших участников.
So once again, we would like to welcome all our participants and say that we are extremely glad to see everyone, all new senses, all new reports that are being pronounced here. I looked through the reports that are supposed to be discussed today during our conference, and I guess that we are starting to find new problems, new goals. As far as all our previous meetings, we have been discussing like how universities and cities and various spheres of the cities and various communities of the cities might cooperate. But today, I suppose, we have come to an era which previous that such a cooperation would be a new possibility to find new problems, the solution for which would be the one that is produced by our researches, which are important for the city development. I see that many reports of this symposium will be dedicated to the cooperation of education and culture, education and museums, educations and libraries, education and various exhibitions, various institutions of culture. And I suppose that the time has come to discuss that such a cooperation would include into our agenda the question of balance of what the culture passes, of what it has managed to treasure. And of course, that is the feeling of something new that allows us to cooperate in between various social institutions, between education that has primarily been thought as an institution of passage of this transfer of cultural experience, and of the mass projects that exist in cultural institutions, where we try to find that new, that prospect, that something that we feel just at the tips of our fingers, that makes us think what are the new senses, what are the new ideas that appear when people get into that cultural space, where they feel that culture as a certain process of development. And I guess that now we are starting to see that cooperation of education and culture is not just the transfer of some cultural baggage or inheritance, but kind of a development of renewment of our attitudes and approaches that a person has when he or she gets into a cultural space. We're discussing what happens to the young generation. We see there are certain topics that are the most important, the most vital for the youth. So that is ecology and healthcare. And of course, I think, yeah, the healthcare is the most important thing. So we're not talking about medicine, we're talking about a lifestyle when people take care of themselves, of their health, when they think of their environment, of how they feel at the city space. When people make some steps that would allow them to develop their lifestyle, to enrich it, to make it more intense, and, to get more from their life. I suppose that health and, environment are the topics that are of center of the interest of the youth, and that's what they have been discussing considering the city development. And we see the rise of a lot of initiatives, and that's a very important trend which is being shown at our conference. So what we see are the traditional educational categories and notions. We see the transformation of socialization. Before, we have seen it as a set of norms that the elder generation passes to the youth. But considering the topics that we're going to discuss today, we see that this socialization has become a topic of co-creation, of mutual agreement on of different generations, like where the young can create their own socializing space, as far as some spaces of the cities are being renewed by them. They provoke the city business and city services to develop these spaces, and some of them are not even noticed for them, which are of more importance for the elder generation and their socializing. Where is this border? Where is that front line? Why some socializing places become more important considering the services and the business, and some spaces become less relevant, less interesting? And so what are the trends considering it become possible? We suppose that it influences various spheres of city life, like the professional orientation topic changes. So it's not about profession really, but that is the trend of the world, which is changing rapidly, which is changing constantly. We have seen lately that the recent years have shown that profession have pushed several digital services development, everything that considers digital services, and digital spaces is being enriched. That has become a very important part of the city life. So a citizen actually uses daily digital services. We're discussing always that our university accepts students that demand us new digital services just because they're not even used to other ways, other services where the automatization doesn't exist yet. They don't know what queues are. They are not ready to gather a lot of documents and to visit several services to achieve the result. They understand that certain procedures which are routine for the elder generation and are habitual for them, they will just seem crazy for them. And the discussion of the digital services of the cities make routines easier, and they help us to conserve and to save some time for self-realization, for creativity. And I gather that is a very interesting part of the discussion of our symposium today. Educational system for those who work in it should see that the framework of the results is important for us. And of course, that is explained that today we're talking about the skills needed at the 21st century. Like, where are the pillars? What are the milestones for which we are searching for cooperation with cultural institutions, healthcare institutions, social care institutions? And what I see is that the discussion of transformation of educational results, of competences and skills of the 21st century, that is a very bright characteristic of our today's symposium. And what I guess is that it makes us think what is the new urbanization model, what is our new understanding, and what is the system of the description of the city space in urban space, and what is changing in these fundamentals. And of course, like the creation of the city sphere, and see the participation of city communities and the renewment of new architectural objects, like where the young people's role, can be seen. Like, we're working with the elderly at our university, and we see how the city changes within different generations and different city communities. And of course, for universities, it's important to see its role in all these processes. University constantly renews the city. We're talking about the self-learning, self-educational possibilities. We are quite shy and modest considering our place, but we hope that universities will be able to take their role, their part. And we hope that each university will have the city university program, like the university, which is the participant, which is the gardener of the city, which means that the university's transformation is one of the characteristics as far as we have formulated our symposium's format. That's not the all-comprising list of all the topics and problems that will be discussed in our reports today. And I think that we will all have and get the feeling of something new and interesting. So I wish all the participants to get that feeling and to admire the idea that we will meet each other a lot of times in future, and we will manage to see what we are doing well, what should be worked on, and what are the new prospects that are waiting for us. Thank you. So thank you, Igor, for your inspiring speech. And I'd like to pass the floor to Svetlana Vachkova, Director of the Institute for the Urbanism and Global Education of Moscow State Pedagogical University. Thank you, Igor, so much. Good morning, good afternoon. I guess that we live in different time zones today, so maybe you will be watching us in recording. And I would like to mention that we are working for the 5th year already, and the topics are very different and they vary from year to year. So now we're talking about the sustainable development. Then we have been discussing the cooperating projecting. Then for 2 years, we have been talking about the quality of education and quality of life. And of course, we have been talking about quality of life in the city and in modern cities. This year, we are going to talk about the realization of the third mission of universities, and there is the new mission of the universities where we are now, and we should see what we are able to do to realize that third mission. So we're talking about the 5th year of our work, and the very format of the symposium previews several changes. We have started with the students part, which was on 20th, 25th of May. We had the youth conference, prospects and challenges for the pedagogical career. And here what we see that our students and young researchers and teachers have participated. They were from various cities of the Russian Federation, of the Kyrgyzstan, of the Belarus, and of the Kazakhstan. We had roundtables, and we hope that this new format would become traditional, and that next year we will be holding the same youth conference, and we suppose that our first attempt was a success. So we will go on. So previously we have been including some student activities into the symposium. When they become more numerous, they require more time, and that is why we consider it to be kind of a self-reflection on what they want to do, what they are going to do, so that our students would have a productive cooperation with us. One more new amendment change for the symposium was yesterday. That was a day when we have been holding a seminar of theater practices to universities and schools, and their teachers of the Moscow schools have been sharing their experience on integration of theater skills have been discussed. So how do we hold the meetings with parents with the theater pedagogy practices? I suppose that that is very interesting, and we should analyze it and see how this event passed, and we should see how do we enrich such a format. And of course, what we see is that the participants that will be talking today, people who will just listen our discussion, would be able to find for themselves sections and topics which would interest them. So we see that the topics and formats are so rich, so different, that people who are interested in the cities, in universities, in the cooperation between cities and universities will definitely find something precious for them. So even if this year you would be just, listening to us today, we hope that the next year you will already be participating in our discussion. So I wish you all fruitful work, some memorable meetings, so that they would be productive, considering the frame of symposium, and that we will go on working. So good luck to us today.
Я хочу пригласить Ашота Сирановича Данумова, заместителя начальника управления международного сотрудничества Московского городского педагогического университета.
Да, добрый день, коллеги. Я рад вас приветствовать на нашем симпозиуме. Симпозиум уже стал традиционным мероприятием, которое мы проводим ежегодно в нашем университете. Немного, конечно, о прошлом симпозиуме, который стал для нас вызовом в связи с пандемийными ограничениями, но он прошел, конечно, успешно, и мы, как в прошлом симпозиуме, коллеги всегда заканчивали свои доклады, как я помню по прошлой повестке, что следующий симпозиум точно пройдет в очном режиме. И да, конечно, у нас пройдет симпозиум в очном режиме, в смешанном режиме. Это новый формат, который еще взаимодействует в университете. И что хочется отметить, что симпозиум прошлых лет стал некой площадкой, даже отправной точкой для крупных исследований, научных исследований, которые проходят в университете. Позволил привлечь зарубежных и российских партнеров для осуществления этих исследований. Я надеюсь и даже уверен, что этот симпозиум не будет исключением, что научные проекты продолжат свою работу, коллаборации научные с зарубежными партнерами и с партнерами стран СНГ. И я уверен, что повестка симпозиума будет актуальна, и как каждый год, ежегодно повестка симпозиума связана с новыми вызовами в образовательной и городской среде. То, что говорил Игорь Михайлович и Светлана Николаевна. Надеюсь, что данный симпозиум будет плодотворный, и нас ждут 3 дня увлекательной работы с коллегами. Спасибо.